Greetings, Internet. I'm John Bailey, the Popcorn Junkie, and between the release of the Snyder Cut taking a lot of my time and the fact that Perfect Cell pushed it back a while, I had completely forgot that we had this year's Oscar nominations. Now, in previous years, I would try to keep up with all the other awards, but if we're being honest, the only one that people really remember is the Oscars. Like, the other awards aren't like lesser, really. I mean, being awarded something in your field is always going to, be meaningful to you in some way. But in terms of like the general audience, it's usually just the Oscars, and then some people will remember the Golden Globes. But I didn't even bother with this year's Golden Globes, mainly because the Golden Globes have always been the also-rans, the red-haired stepchild to the Emmys and the Oscars. And really, it's just an excuse for the Hollywood people to just hang out and get drunk, and they couldn't even do that this year. So, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, awards in general are just kind of insider industry sort of back-patting, and it's all wheeling and dealing and politics more than it is actual meritocracy. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter, but it is still nice when people get recognized for their hard work. So if nothing else, I will do that. And let's get right along to the nominees. Let's start off with the big one, Best Picture. The nominees this year are The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, of the nominees, I've only seen Judas and the Black Messiah, Sound of Metal, Nomadland, and Trial of the Chicago 7. And aside from the last one, the other three are really solid picks for Best Picture. Trial of the Chicago 7 is mainly there because Hollywood liberals love co-opting leftist movements for fun and profit, and nobody there has realized Aaron Sorkin's an overrated hack. The other ones are going to have to try to do some kind of Oscars roundup in the meantime. I mean, it's not like something else is coming out in theaters, and it's going to be hard to catch up with all the home video rentals without occurring just mounds of rental fees. So stay tuned for as I catch up to the Oscars. I mean, I got a whole month, why not? Next big category, Best Director. The nominees are Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman, David Fincher for Mank, Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, and Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. Now, of the nominees, I've only seen one, and I think she did a fantastic job. So, congrats for the nomination, Chloe Zhao. You earned it. I'll have to check the other ones out during the roundup, but the only one that's a real gimme is David Fincher, just because he's the biggest name of the nominees, which is actually a nice change of pace. Normally, it's just like, here's all the biggest names in directing in Hollywood right now, but no, there's no Christopher Nolan, there's no, Aaron Sorkin, there's none of that. It's all the new people, and it's, so it's like Lee Isaac Chung. I don't know if this is his first film or if he's been, a director working behind the scenes and this is his first big break. But yeah, the fact that all of these new names are filling up the nominations, and then it's David Fincher, kind of like the real big name out of all of them. That's a nice change of pace. I haven't seen that in a long while, if at all, during my times looking at the Oscars. So congratulations to the nominees this time. And I'm very excited to check out your films. Next category, Best Actor in a Leading Role. The nominees are Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Gary Oldman for Mank, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, and Stephen Yeun for Minari. The last three I still need to see, but Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins are just consummate professionals, so I doubt they gave a bad performance. And Stephen Yeun's a good actor in his own right, so I'm very interested to see how he does in Minari. But of the two I did see, Riz Ahmed is fantastic in Sound of Metal. He really gives a killer performance. And let's be real, this feels like that sort of point where Heath Ledger was nominated for the Joker just before he passed. Not only was it just a killer performance, but it feels like a posthumous award to an actor that we'll never get to see act again. And honestly, I think Chadwick Boseman gave a better performance than Heath Ledger did as Joker in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Like, I think Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is the defining performance of Chadwick Boseman's career. Just his entire essence in that film is fantastic. And even if it wasn't tied to his tragic passing, I think people would still remember his performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom just because of how powerful it all is. He really does such a killer job in it. And if it doesn't go to him, I would be shocked. But at the same point, like, none of the nominees are bad either. So we'll see what happens. Next category, we've got Best Actress in a Leading Role. The nominees are Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Audra Day for The People vs. Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. I still need to see Pieces of a Woman and Promising Young Woman, but of the ones I've seen, Frances McDormand is just a killer actress. She is so great in all of her performances, and it's no different in Nomadland, so she deserved the nomination, no doubt. Audra Day was the best part of The People vs. Billie Holiday, even though the movie was not all that good. So good for her that she got nominated, but again, it's fitting that nothing else got nominated from that thing. But Viola Davis is the one I like. I think she's won already. I want to say she's won already, but even if she has, I want to give it to her for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Just both performances in that movie. It's fitting that both Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis got nominated as the leads, because they are essentially the competing leads in that movie. Both performances in that movie were so great. Just such a wonderful movie. If you haven't already, go check out Ma Rainey's Black Bottom on Netflix. It is so good. But yeah, I'll have to see Pieces of a Woman and Promising Young Woman to give a more definitive answer. But of the ones I've seen, Viola Davis just killed it, and I would have given it to her. Next category is Best Actor in a Supporting Role. The nominees are Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of Chicago 7, Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah, Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah, Paul Raci for Sound of Metal, and Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami. This nomination list just rubs me the wrong way. Not that anybody here is a bad performance, it's more like this sort of technicality thing. Like what the Golden Globes did a couple years ago by nominating The Martian as a comedy in order to get it in the nomination list because they couldn't make a decision and fit everything they wanted in there. I feel like Daniel Kaluuya or Lakeith Stanfield, one of them should be considered the lead actor in a leading role, and I'm assuming it would be Daniel Kaluuya, given that he gets top billing, but because I think they're gonna guarantee the win for Chadwick Boseman, they still wanted Kaluuya to have a chance, so they put him in the supporting role in a movie that he and Lakeith Stanfield are essentially the stars of. They can't both be the supporting actor, because then who would be the lead? Jesse Plemons? It's stuff like that that makes is why I can't take awards too seriously. Like, I will respect the Oscars well enough because it is such a long-standing institution, and it does give a chance to recognize real talent, even though a lot of it is just politics. But yeah, the decision to just make it, try to cram in Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield into the same category when one of them should be considered the lead. Like, even if he doesn't win, give one of them drop either Hopkins or Oldman and give Daniel Kaluuya a seat in that category, because otherwise it's just unfair to consider them both supporting roles. Otherwise, the nominees are all really solid. Both Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya were great in the movie. Leslie Odom Jr. was fantastic as Sam Cooke. Even though I didn't like the movie, Sacha Baron Cohen was fine in his role. And Paul Raci did a great job in the supporting role because he is a deaf actor, and he's not a deaf actor. He is the son of deaf, I believe, musicians. I want to say musicians, but he is a very prominent figure in the deaf community because he's a child of deaf parents, and so giving him a chance, giving him that nomination is great for him, even if he doesn't end up winning. But he also did a fantastic job in Sound of Metal. If you haven't gotten a chance to, Sound of Metal on Amazon Prime, go check it out. Fantastic movie, one of my favorites from last year. But yeah, just little stuff like that is why I can never take awards all that seriously. Next up, Best Actress in a Supporting Role. The nominees are Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, Maria Bakalova for Borat's subsequent movie film, Olivia Colman for The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Yoon Ye-chung for Minari. I kind of like that the only nomination Hillbilly Elegy got so far is for Glenn Close. That movie felt like such a for your consideration movie, and it just rubbed me all the wrong ways. And I'm so glad that they only got one nomination. It feels like it's like, okay, here you go, here's a sprinkle of a nomination. It kind of feels like if you've ever watched the Christopher Guest movie For Your Consideration, something similar happens there, where like three of the actors feel like, oh, I'm guaranteed a nomination for this year, and then the one actress who didn't care is the one who gets it. Yeah, go check. I need to rewatch that. God, that is so fitting for this. He really nails this kind of awards bait kind of filmmaking. But yeah, the one I haven't seen The Father yet, or Mank. Still need to see Minari. And Maria Bakalova, that came right the hell out of left field. I did not expect her to get a nomination. Normally, because the Oscars just don't recognize comedies. They very rarely honor comedies in terms of like acting or writing or things like that. Normally, it's just the awards bait dramas. And then even like sci-fi and other genre films tend to only get relegated to the technical awards. But yeah, good for her. I don't know if she'll win. I think one of the more serious roles will get it. But the fact that she got nominated, good for her, especially for like her breakthrough performance. And yeah, she killed it in Borat too. So that's an interesting nominee. We'll see who wins. On to Best Original Screenplay. The nominees are The Trial of the Chicago 7, Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, and Sound of Metal. I've been in trouble understanding how two biopics ended up getting considered for Best Original Screenplay instead of Best Adapted Screenplay. I guess the technicality is that they weren't based on like existing books, so they're not like an adaptation of a nonfiction book about it. But they're still adapting actual events from reality. You would think that would count as an adaptation, not an original. This isn't an original idea. Fred Hampton and the actual trial of Chicago 7 were things that happened. I don't know if Minari is, that may be inspired by true events or something like that. But yeah, it feels weird that biopics gets considered original screenplays instead of adaptations, but it's got to be just a technicality thing. Still need to see a good chunk of these. So of the nominees, I would probably either give it to Judas and the Black Messiah or Sound of Metal, because both of those stories were powerful. Probably Sound of Metal, just because I think that's a bit tighter of a story in terms of its writing, but both of those were great, and I'm very curious to see about Minari and Promising Young Woman. I've heard great things about them. I also don't want Aaron Sorkin to win just because cocaine has given him enough of an ego boost. He doesn't need another Oscar for it. So please just no more Aaron Sorkin ever. He's not terrible like Whedon or Casey Affleck or Jared Leto, but I'm just kind of done with him just because I think he's way overrated. Over to Best Adapted Screenplay, the nominees are Borat's subsequent movie film, The Father, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, and The White Tiger. Two surprises in this category. I did not expect Borat to get nominated for a best screenplay. You know, like I'm surprised it's getting any recognition at all from the Oscars. So, that's interesting. I think it's getting that because a sequel gets considered best adapted screenplay because you're adapting from a sequel and the character Borat from Dolly G show. but when you're adapting events from real life, it's not considered an adaptation unless you're using a book like Nomadland did, because Nomadland is a nonfiction book about the lives of nomads, the people who do live out of their vehicles and travel the country. Yeah, the technicalities of these awards are weird. But yeah, of the nominees, I've only missed out on The Father so far, which is based on a play, as is One Night in Miami. In fact, the playwright for One Night in Miami is the one who adapted it, and kind of want to give it to him. I think Kemp Powers did a really excellent job adapting his play to screen, and I'm curious to see how The Father plays out if it's based on a play. But yeah, of the nominees, I would absolutely give it to One Night in Miami. But The White Tiger, kind of weird and out of nowhere, but whatever. It feels like that feels like a dark horse. You know, just a random nomination out of nowhere. Not a bad movie. Don't know how it adapts the story, but I don't expect it to go anywhere. Next up, the obligatory Disney Pixar Award, Best Animated Feature. The nominees are Onward, Soul, Wolfwalkers, Over the Moon, and Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon. Yeah, I think it's going to go to Soul, just because I feel like that's the most awards baity of the nominees. Not to mention that Soul is just probably the most technically best of them all. Personally, I would have given it to Wolfwalkers, because that one hit me more than Soul did. But I'm expecting it to go to Soul, also because Pixar. But I kind of want Shaun the Sheep to win, just because I want there to be Academy Award winner, a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon. Just the insanity of that statement would be amazing. Move along to Best International Feature Film, which is actually a better title than Foreign Language Film, now that I think about it. But the nominees are the aforementioned Another Round from Denmark, Better Days from Hong Kong, Collective from Romania, which will show up again later down the list, The Man Who Sold His Skin from Tunisia, and Quo Vadis Aida from Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's interesting that Another Round got nominated for both Best Director and Best International Film. The same thing happened last year with Parasite. And I'm always curious how that happens. Like, is it just the insider favorites that get that nomination? I'm assuming so, and because that makes the most sense. But it's really interesting how they pick Best Director, like, out of all of them, because there are the directors of the international feature films that could get nominated, but will they? Are they going to try and focus a bit more on that? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I haven't seen any of these, sadly, but thankfully a bunch of them are on Netflix and Hulu, and I think Amazon Prime, so it should be a little easier to catch up with them. In fact, that's one of the nice things about these new streaming services, is new outlets for international films. So hopefully I can get access to the 5 nominees and see them all. But yeah, best of luck to all 5 of you. Over to another category I tend to neglect. Best Documentary Feature. The nominees are Collective, again, Crip Camp, The Mole Agent, My Octopus Teacher, and Time. Like with the international nominees, the documentaries tend to slip past me. I did hear good things about My Octopus Teacher, and I did see a bit of Crip Camp on Netflix when the nominees were announced, so I know, I get, plus the title kind of implies what it's about. But yeah, I'll be interested to check these out to see what all the fuss is. So, and I just need to boost my documentary watching in general. Let's make it quick through the shorts, since I only saw one of all of the shorts in all 3 categories. So live action shorts are Feeling Through, The Letter Room, The Present, Two Distant Strangers, and White Eye. The documentary short nominees are Collect, A Concerto is a Conversation, Do Not Split, Hunger Ward, and A Love Song for Latasha. And the best animated short nominees are Burrow, Genius Loki, If Anything Happens I Love You, Opera, and Yes People. Of the nominees, I only saw Burrow because that was featured as part of Pixar's Spark Notes? Spark Shorts. Spark Notes is the study guide for novels. But yeah, Burrow is it was the only one I saw because that was a Pixar short on Disney Plus. It's a cute short too, but yeah, the shorts are so hard to keep up with because they don't really share them anywhere. I think some of these are on Netflix, so and some of these may be on other services, but it's hard for shorts to get it posted anywhere. So I'll see what I can and I'll compile them into one video. But otherwise, I'm probably gonna have to miss a bunch of these. That's what happened. That's what happens most years. There was one year, I think last year, where they did show all of the nominated shorts in a screening and like Cinemark, but I don't think they're doing that this year. Though they may. It's hard to say. Going more into the technical categories, the nominees for Best Original Score are Terrence Blanchard for Da 5 Bloods, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for Mank, Emile Mosseri for Minari, James Newton Howard for The News of the World, and Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and John Batiste for Soul. Once again, stacking the deck with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Dudes are nominated twice. You'd think you just nominate them the once and let someone else have a shot, but whatever. Never saw News of the World. I have to check that one out. And I'm surprised The 5 Bloods got so neglected by the nominees. I mean, the performances in The 5 Bloods are phenomenal. Once again, another Chadwick Boseman performance. Although I think that one came out before his tragic passing. But yeah, all the old dudes, they should have been. Delroy Lindo specifically, people were like, best performance of his career, best performance of the year, and yet no recognition. Once again, drop Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman. They've been nominated enough times. Give Delroy Lindo and Daniel Kaluuya a shot. But once again, this isn't a meritocracy. It's all insider stuff. But yeah, I'll have to check out these scores. I'll have to pay attention to the scores for Mank, Minari, and News of the World. But of the two that I did hear, Soul stands out the most. So Mank, Minari, and News of the World are going to have to pull a lot in their scores for it to stand out more than Soul. On to the Best Original Song. The nominees are Fight For You from Judas and the Black Messiah, Hear My Voice from Trial of the Chicago 7, Husavik from Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, You'll See Scene from The Life Ahead, and Speak Now from One Night in Miami. This one's easier to catch up with since songs are way shorter than movies, but I'm genuinely shocked that Eurovision Song Contest got nominated for anything. Maybe because I figured, like everybody else, we had forgotten about that movie. But yeah, as for listening to the songs themselves, Hers, H-E-R, I'm not sure I'm assuming Her, but yeah, Hers, Fight For You from Judas and the Black Messiah is a solid R&B track with a lot of hints to Black Power and Pride. So that one is probably the standout. Celeste's Hear My Voice isn't bad, but it's a bit languid by comparison. It's more like soul music than R&B, and it kind of reminds me a bit of the sort of hollowness of the movie. It's fitting that Judas and the Black Messiah has a more powerful Black empowerment feel to it and uses a lot of R&B, whereas the Trial of the Chicago 7 is like wistful, soulful, inspirational, and yeah, kind of hollow in terms of the lyrics. It feels a bit like the kind of songs that they would give American Idol winners to sing. Something that pops up a bit on this list. Husavik has the same problem where it's not a bad song, but it's very bland. It's very American Idol or The Voice winner. You know, the kind of stuff that it's all cheesy ballad stuff. You know, it's stuff that's like seen as powerful, but has no weight behind it. And Yossi even has the same problem, though I can't judge the lyrics because they're in Italian and I'm not as familiar. Although the movie, I'm surprised I didn't get a bit more recognition. It's about an ex-prostitute and a Holocaust survivor taking care of a Senegalese, this is in Italy. So you've got an ex-prostitute Holocaust survivor in Italy taking care of a Senegalese orphan whose mother was a prostitute, and passed away, or was killed or something. I don't remember the exact details, but she's trying to help him steer away from from falling into a life of crime on the streets, given that it's dealing with a lot of issues of poverty, and she's starting to fail in her health, and so it deals with a lot of those kind of issues. I'm surprised it didn't get more recognition outside from the song, but oh well. But yeah, of the ones nominated, Speak Now is my favorite. Leslie Odom Jr. It's got this interesting rhythmic acoustic guitar, so where the acoustic guitar is providing the rhythm instead of drums, and it feels a bit more like a R&B soulful folk song. It really is it's the one that I would listen to again and again. So I'm thinking Fight for You from Judas and the Black Messiah, if I'm thinking of it more from what the Academy members would pick. But personally, I would pick Speak Now from One Night in Miami. It is my favorite of the songs. Finishing out the noisy bits, we've got Best Sound. The nominees are Greyhound, Mank, News of the World, Soul, and Sound of Metal. Now, I've only seen 3 of the nominees here. The ones I'm missing are Mank and News of the World, but personally speaking, Sound of Metal's sound design actually is playing into the plot of the movie, and it shows that. They may give it to Soul, but I would give it to Sound of Metal. I think that one's sound design is the best, and I would be shocked if Mank or News of the World topped it in any way. So, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll see during the roundups. On to Best Cinematography. The nominees are Sean Bobbitt for Judas and the Black Messiah, Eric Messerschmidt for Mank, Darius Wolski for News of the World, Joshua James Richards for Nomadland, and Pheidon Papamichael for The Trial of the Chicago 7. It's hard to say for this one. I would probably give it to... I'd have to see News of the World and Mank to be sure. Nomadland was good, and Judas and the Black Messiah wasn't bad. I don't think Trial of the Chicago 7's cinematography was all that great, mainly because it was still Sorkin directing it, so I don't think it was... the shooting didn't strike me in any way. Whereas Judas and the Black Messiah's cinematography, I think, is way better. I think Judas and the Black Messiah is everything that Trial of the Chicago 7 wanted it to be, but actually, knows what it's doing. So knows where it's coming from, if nothing else. So yeah, Sorkin is a pale imitation of what Shaka King did with Judas and the Black Messiah. Once again, white people palely imitating the great things that black people do. Just things never change. Yeah, I'll just check out News of the World. That one may be good, and Messerschmitt may be good for Mank. Those are the ones I'm going to have to pay attention to, but it's a toss-up in this category for me, because I'm not entirely sure. Nothing has stood out for me the way that the sound design for Sound of Metal did, or the performances did in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Moving on to Best Production Design, the nominees are The Father, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, News of the World, and Tenet. Tenet was going to win anything. It should go for the technical stuff. And right now, of the nominees, I think Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, it had the best actual production design. This is the stuff that's the set and the constructions of the set and whatnot, and the props and all that. Maybe News of the World or Mank. I'd have to check that, but Tenet could win it. Once again, I've been pretty bad about naming the individual people, because that's the thing. It's easy to name individual people like actors, directors, composers, the cinematographers. But when it's a whole crew of people, it's a lot harder. So, shout outs to the entire crews behind this and the leads on these crews as well. They are the ones who get nominated for this, not the movie itself. But yeah, I'd probably give it to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, just because I still need to see Mank and News of the World and The Father. Or Tenet could win it. Tenet didn't do too bad in the production design either. Onto a fairly overlooked and underappreciated category, we've got Best Makeup and Hairstyle. The nominees are Emma, spelled like an indie band, Hillbilly Elegy, somehow again, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, and Pinocchio, because Italy did another adaptation of that recently. Yeah, hair and makeup tends to get overlooked and seen as like a lesser category, like this thing that. But that's the thing, is that hair and makeup is one of those parts of the filmmaking process where if you do it right, nobody notices. But if you do it wrong, everybody notices. We'll get to the big one of those in a bit. But in terms of the hair and makeup, oof, yeah, this thing is, these usually go to like, this is where the genre stuff comes in. And this is usually where, these categories are usually just filled with period pieces. In fact, yeah, this is technically, once again, all period pieces, because the 2000s are a period piece now. That's period piece age now. We're that far out from the 2000s. They're a period piece. I was just getting used to the 90s as a period piece. God damn, man. Time is a cruel mistress. But yeah, the nominees, hair and makeup. Honestly, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. The work that went into making Viola Davis look like Ma Rainey is fantastic. And I think the fact that they're making them all look sweaty and just tired is really good. I'd have to see Pinocchio. And otherwise, I would probably pick Emma, just because there is a lot more hair and makeup to go into a period piece farther back. But yeah, Hillbilly Elegy, and I think that's another pity nom for the way they made Glenn Close look older. But not. I think it's just another pity nom, and it's not going to go anywhere. I feel bad for Pinocchio though. Once again, the one thing it gets nominated for is hair and makeup. Although I think it gets nominated again. Over to hair and makeup's equally underappreciated cousin, Best Costume Design. We've got Alexandra Byrne for Emma, Anne Roth for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Trish Somerville for Mank, Bina Diegler for Mulan, and Massimo Cantini Parini for Pinocchio. See, I knew Pinocchio showed up again at least once. Once again, Mulan, right the hell out of nowhere. I think once again, because we're dealing with period pieces. Emma's a period piece, Ma Rainey's a period piece, Mank's a period piece, Mulan's a period piece, Pinocchio's a period piece. These are the period pieces categories, and it feels unfair almost. But I guess that's where more of the work goes. It's easier to award extra work that goes into making something look old from an older time period than it is to make something look like, it takes place now. But yeah, not Mulan. Mulan ain't it, man. But I would probably give it to Emma? Maybe Emma or Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Mank could work as well. I still need to see Pinocchio. That costuming may be fantastic. I'll have to pay attention for that. But yeah, anything but Mulan, man. From the practical to the digital, here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects. We've got Love and Monsters. Okay. The Midnight Sky. Mulan. The One and Only Ivan. Alrighty. And Tenet. Do not expect Love and Monsters or The One and Only Ivan of all things to get nominations. I have to check out The Midnight Sky's effects, see if they're any good. Mulan's effects, not that great. They weren't that great. So yeah, I think this is Tenet's category. I feel like the other ones are just like, you remember that part in Rocky 3 where Mickey was giving him all of these chumps to beat in order to hold on to the title? I think that's kind of what's going on here, but with Tenet. Like, here's a bunch of... Why would you nominate The One and Only Ivan against Tenet, At least Mulan was a big enough blockbuster to really compete, but we'll have to wait and see. Apparently people were talking about Love and Monsters stuff in terms of the effects recently, probably because of this nomination, but there's 3 I have to check out and see for myself. And finally, one of the least appreciated but most important categories, as we've seen with Zack Snyder's Justice League and Cherry, Best Film Editing. The nominees are Yorgos Lanthimos for The Father, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, Frederick Dorival for Promising Young Woman, Mikkel E.G. Nielsen for The Sound of Metal, and Alan Baumgarten for The Trial of the Chicago 7. I did not realize Chloe Zhao did her own editing. In that case, I hope she gets this and directing, just because I wouldn't want it to be like, hey, Chloe, great job editing that movie. Directing? But, yeah. Have to pay attention to The Father and Promising Young Woman. Sound of Metals was good. Trial of the Chicago 7? Really? I don't think... I wasn't into the editing for that one. But, yeah, it's interesting, this category, because the editing is, once again, like hair and makeup, like costume design, one of those categories that when it's bad, you notice. When it's good, you don't even think about it. The Academy did also announce, while they aren't hosting the Governor's Award, that Tyler Perry is receiving a Humanitarian Award, which, we might joke and say, hey, this is the closest Tyler Perry's ever going to get to an Oscar, am I right? But the dude is, that's the thing, is that I'm not the biggest fan of his creative output, but I can't deny the fact that Perry puts his money where his mouth is. It's his humanitarian stuff, all of that rich people humanitarian stuff is usually just a PR move, if we're being honest. But setting up a big studio out in the Atlanta area, that's something. As long as he's giving local directors the opportunity to work there and shoot there and make stuff there, that's great. But I don't know much of the behind the scenes stuff, but I do know that he tends to put his money where his mouth is and help people. He just gave the ex-Prince of England and his wife a house to stay in for 6 months with security. So, the dude definitely has this sort of humanitarian side, this philanthropic side to him that definitely should deserve some recognition. So, good for him. But, yeah, the awards are out next month, the end of April, so I have plenty of time to play catch-up. And I'm going to try and watch the awards live, usually maybe with an extra live stream commentary, maybe like the Not Playing guys or Double Toasted. But yeah, I didn't care about the Golden Globes enough to see how their social distancing, virtual award ceremony worked. So we'll see how the Oscars do it. So stay tuned for further Oscar Roundup reviews and probably a recap, though I will not live stream it myself just because I don't have the audience and I don't think YouTube will let me. Until next time, I'm John Bailey, and remember, award shows are still bullshit, but it's nice to support the people who worked really hard. Is she done? Yeah, now she's done. Nope. No, she's not done. Oh, boy. In fact, let me do another take. Wait. Want to come? Want to come down? Alright, go lay down. Stupid dog.